There are a lot of Agatha Christie adaptations out there. Some of them don't work because they change too much from the original story. Others don't work because they don't change enough. And some don't work because they change the wrong things. On the other hand, there are some adaptations that are great films but only loosely translate the stories they were based on. Today I'd like to highlight 4 Agatha Christie films that are accurate to the source material and hold up on their own. I do hope you'll check these movies out, so I'm not going to give away any spoilers. Number 1. Five Little Pigs. This 2004 adaptation is based on the 1942 Poirot novel, also titled Murder in Retrospect. Its stars include David Suchet, Rachel Sterling, Gemma Jones, Toby Stephens, and Tallulah Riley, but please don't let that put you off. A young woman asks Poirot to investigate the murder of her father, which occurred over a decade ago, and find out whether her mother was really responsible. The bulk of the story is told in flashbacks from the points of view of 5 witnesses, or suspects. Plot-wise, the film makes very few changes. Poirot interviews fewer people, some characters' ages are a little different, and the mother's life ends by hanging instead of by dying in prison. The characters are largely the same, all except one man, whose motive and backstory are altered, and the daughter, who, in the book, wanted to know the truth about her father's death because of her forthcoming engagement. The film removes her fiancé, so her motivation for finding out the truth holds a different significance. Not only does screenwriter Kevin Elliott flawlessly translate the complexity of each character to the screen, he includes nearly every important clue and red herring. He expertly blends different parts of the flashbacks together to form a smooth narrative and a pace that's spot on. Add to that some first-class acting, photography, and music, and you've got the very best Suchet adaptation there ever was. Number 2. A Murder is Announced. This 1985 three-part entry in the TV series starring Joan Hickson is based on the 1950 Miss Marple novel. One of the suspects is played by Samantha Bond, who would go on to play Miss Moneypenny in the James Bond films. A strange notice appears in a local village newspaper, announcing that a murder will occur at a specific place and time. Several villagers turn up, expecting some sort of game, but it leads to homicide, and they all end up as suspects. Miss Marple happens to be nearby and assists with the solving of this unusual case. Many Agatha Christie TV adaptations make the mistake of telling the story too like the original, forgetting that this is a new medium that requires a different kind of artistry. That said, this adaptation manages to cover just about everything from the book and does it in a way that keeps it entertaining, which is not easy to do across 160 minutes. Through a mix of original and film-only dialogue, the characters are made intriguing, three-dimensional, and fun. Not only that, the book's theme of bewilderment, of how much life has changed since World War II, is palpably felt. Things just don't work the same way they used to, including solving murder mysteries. Identities are much harder to check up on, so there's no guarantee that anyone is who they say they are. Christie was adept at shining a light on important clues but fooling you into disregarding them by making them seem unimportant. Films often try to do this and make a complete mess of it, but here for once they get it just right. It's a long watch, but it's worth it. Number 3. The Moving Finger. This 2006 TV adaptation is based on the 1943 Miss Marple novel. It too was adapted by Kevin Elliott, and it stars Geraldine McEwen alongside Frances de la Tour, Amelia Fox, James Darcy, and Sean Pertwee, who played Hugh Barringer in the Brother Cadfael series, and he's the son of John Pertwee, the third Doctor Who. After a serious injury, Jerry Burton is taken to Limstock, a tiny country village, to recuperate. Instead of the quiet boredom he expects, the village is plagued by poisoned pen letters, which lead to violence and widespread suspicion. Eventually, Miss Marple and Jerry help bring the truth to light. Now, this film almost didn't make the list because of 2 major changes found right at the beginning: the addition of a violent death that wasn't in the book, and the narrator character's injury being caused by a suicide attempt rather than an accident. But apart from these alterations, the rest of the story is spot on. The additions bolster the original plot without taking it over. One other surprising change to note: Miss Marple only shows up in the last third of the novel, whereas in the film she's woven seamlessly into the narrative. James Darcy's character is still the protagonist, but even though he and Miss Marple don't exactly fit the Sherlock Watson paradigm, they make an impressive investigative duo. The rest of the characters are vividly brought to life through a combination of talented writing, acting, and direction. For such a short novel, quite a lot happens in the story, so many of the events had to be left out, but those that were included were carefully chosen in order to fuel the development of characters and relationships, particularly that of Jerry and Megan. I won't give away the ending, except to say that it's satisfying. Number 4. Murder on the Orient Express. The film we're talking about is, of course, the 1974 adaptation starring Albert Finney as Poirot, alongside other huge names like Ingrid Bergman, Lauren Bacall, Sir John Gielgud, Vanessa Redgrave, Michael York, Anthony Perkins, and Sean Connery. By featuring an all-star cast, high production values, and a period setting, this movie lifted the bar high for the genre, setting an example that many later productions would follow. The filmmakers took their commitment to the source material seriously while adding healthy dollops of style and glamour. Alterations from the book are down to a minimum with this one. Albert Finney as Poirot, I have mixed feelings about. Whenever I read a Poirot story, I picture David Suchet, and my next favorite would be Peter Ustinov. Albert Finney gives us a Poirot who is more difficult to associate with as a character because of how heavily he leans into Poirot's eccentricities. Poirot himself acknowledges that people tend to see him as extremely, quote-unquote, foreign, and not only does he not mind it, he makes use of it as an investigative tool to put people off their guard. Well, nowhere is that captured so vividly as in this film. Finney's Poirot is super strange, and it's not played for comedy. It's just, this is how he is. It was a bit of a risk to take. The filmmakers could have decided to go the other way for fear that having a protagonist who comes off as so alien might turn audiences away. Instead, they gave Finney all of Poirot's weirdest quirks and had him run with them. I applaud them for that. My one and only complaint about this film is that my absolute favorite line from the book is left out. Early on, Poirot is approached by businessman Ratchet, who wants to hire him. Intuiting that Ratchet is scum, Poirot declines, in spite of all the money offered. When Ratchet asks why, Poirot gives a perfect response, which did actually make it into the 2017 adaptation, and was one of its redeeming features. "What's wrong with my proposition?" "If you will forgive me for being personal, I do not like your face, Monsieur Ratchet." Speaking of the 2017 version, both it and other renditions have a bit more to unpack, so please look forward to a video focusing solely on Murder on the Orient Express. I know some of you have been waiting for it for quite some time, so thank you for your patience, and thanks for watching.